Hey everybody, I'm Chris Greene. You're tuning into AMTV Alternative Media Television. It's Monday, June 29, 2015, and a dark day for Athens. A dark day for Greece. Something I've been speaking to for over 5 years now. I've done dozens and dozens of videos on Greece, its inevitable collapse, its inevitable Grexit, and now officially, as was the case over the weekend, banks have been shut down in Greece. This is better known as a bank holiday, something we saw during the Great Depression in the 1930s. Not only are the Greek banks shut down, Piraeus Bank, National Bank of Greece, etc., Alpha Bank, through July 5th until the referendum, but also the Athens Stock Exchange has also been shut down. Again, this is a very dark day for Greece, and it is a very dark day for the Eurozone, for the ECB, for this 19-member state integration, which, let's take a look at the big picture here for a minute, has been a total and utter failure. Has totally and utterly failed. Give every single one of these European officials, Christine Lagarde, Mario Drag Queen, a big, fat, freaking F. It's been a total and utter collapse and a total and utter failure. Again, limiting the withdrawal amount on ATMs to 60 euros per day in Greece. Could you imagine that? I think that's the equivalent of around 68 US dollars. Could you imagine living on 68 US dollars a day? That being the limit that you could withdraw from your own money. Again, this just only illustrates the absolute ludicrous nature of the banking system itself, which again is a function of liquidity on any given day. They don't have the assets that they supposedly should have on deposit. This is all funny money. They lend for every dollar that you deposit into any bank, not just in Greece, but in the United States of America and or Europe, they lend $10 on that. So the bank essentially doesn't have your money, just like our currency is backed by nothing. The Federal Reserve prints money out of thin air. The whole system, the whole money system itself is an illusion. What people are failing to look at really is the big picture. You know, there's a lot of focus on this referendum, July 5th, of which Alexis Tsipras and the finance minister are going to allow, of Greece, are going to allow the Greek people vote on whether or not they stay in the euro with a yes vote and accept these gross austerity measures and a cut to their pensions, or they vote no. No being that they leave the euro and that more than likely they'll reinstitute their own currency in the name of the drachma. And that, of course, will also breed chaos in and of itself. You know, it's amazing to me that every single pundit on Wall Street, every single major pundit on CNBC got this wrong. I mean, again, I've been told for years now that I'm a fearmonger, suggesting that Greece was bankrupt and that they were going out of business, essentially, and that at some point there would be bank closures, bank runs, bank holidays, and the financial system itself would, in effect, collapse. And that's exactly what's happened today, Monday, really the equivalent of a Black Monday for Greece, June 29th, 2015. A very dark day for Greece and the people of Greece. But you know, on the positive side, I think it is pretty respectable and pretty awesome how the Greek people are handling this thus far. Everything has remained quite civil. We haven't seen the civil unrest that we've seen in years past around the 2008-2009 timeframe. We haven't seen those riots, at least yet. So we have a big vote coming up on July 5th, on Sunday, the day after our Independence Day, July 4th, on whether or not Greece should stay or exit the euro completely. Now, I would argue it would actually be a good thing if the people of Greece exited the Eurozone. Yes, there would be short-term pain. There would be very serious reforms. Things might get much worse. There could potentially be civil unrest in the streets. But that actually might be what Greece needs. To actually have real structural reforms, to actually address their excessive debt load. And again, create structural reforms that will actually turn Greece on the path to real economic growth. Again, part of the problem with this extend and pretend campaign, these successive bailouts into infinity, it never addresses how Greece is actually going to grow for real, how they're going to add fuel to the fire of the economic growth engine that makes up Greece. Instead, what the European Union is suggesting is they just continue to paper it over. Even if Greece votes yes to stay a part of the Eurozone, this 19-member state, that's only a short-term fix. That's a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound that, again, in another year or another month or another week will only result in them needing more money once again. We'll be back in this situation once again. Alexis Tsipras of the Syriza Party, what the mainstream media calls the radical left, this leftist party that won't accept austerity. I don't know why that's radical, that they don't want their pensions cut. Many people saying that it is likely that Alexis and his government will lose their power in the coming weeks as a result of all these problems. I actually think that they are pretty smart in the fact that they're allowing the people to vote. I mean, isn't that what a republic is supposed to be about, what a democracy is supposed to be about? He's allowing the people to vote on a referendum whether or not they should stay or they should go from the Eurozone and the European Union. I think that's smart. That actually solidifies Alexis potentially staying in power in the Syriza Party, actually helping Greece build out of the doldrums and help them to actually get on a path of sustainability and real economic growth. You know, what amazes me is Americans don't think this can happen here, even though we had digital bank runs in 2008 and 2009. Lehman Brothers collapsed. Every major financial institution, not just Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns, collapsed here in the United States of America. It was met with trillions and trillions of dollars worth of funds paid through an infusion of taxpayer money to keep them afloat. We've, of course, been living the repercussions for years now. Nothing's been fixed. And we have the same structural problems here in the United States that Greece has. The only difference between the United States and Greece is we have the Federal Reserve to print our own currency, so we can paper over our interest payments and our debt into infinity, whereas Greece can't because they don't have the money printing presses at the ECB to print at their leisure because they're a member of this 19-member union. That's the only difference. And Americans don't think that this can happen here. They don't think that a bank holiday could happen at Bank of America, at JP Morgan Chase Bank, at Warren Buffett's Wells Fargo. It's like they just don't think it can happen. I mean, everybody's so dazed and confused, you know, playing their video games and the recent app that they might have downloaded from Apple's store, engaged in this hearsay bullshit. The debate on the Confederate flag and gay rights, which again isn't a coincidence that they blasted the Confederate flag debate, coupled that with the gay rights issue all in the same week. It really overshadowed, at least here in America, what's really going on in Europe right now, which is a total and utter collapse. Grecopolis, if you want to call it. People calling it a Grexcident. People calling it a Grexit. Again, this is the worst case scenario that, again, we've been talking about this channel for 5 years now. I have dozens and dozens of videos on specifically the topic of Greece. This is the worst case scenario actually manifesting itself in real life. We have a freaking bank holiday in Greece right now. The Athens Stock Exchange is shut down. This is in effect a bank run, a real live death spiral in the Eurozone and in Greece. And you know what's very concerning about this is nobody, including myself, knows the true repercussions of all this financial engineering, of all this funny money, all this papering over the debt, these 0% interest rates into infinity that have never had interest rates this prolonged for this amount of time ever in the history of the world. We've never seen what those repercussions are. These new financial asset bubbles where the Chinese stock market's crashing 7% in a single trading session, promoting the Bank of China to lower interest rates and cut interest rates once again to provide support and liquidity of their market. We have never seen and have no idea what the repercussions of all of this financial engineering and shenanigans, again, will bring. Not just to the people of Greece that only make up, 1.5% or something ballpark of the total GDP of the Eurozone. We have no idea the contagion effect of this, the risks to contagion. We have no idea the exposure of hedge funds here based in the United States that may have been heavily invested in Greek banks like Piraeus Bank or Alpha Bank or the National Bank of Greece. We have absolutely no friggin' idea. Again, we had warning signs in 2008 and 2009 with the collapse of Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns. And it still took several weeks, several months for things to play out before the world was literally lit on fire. I couldn't help but joke with friends and family over the weekend that during this whole gay rights bullshit, shenanigans, the White House showing a gay rights flag, that Putin over in Russia must have just had a grin on his face and just was probably oiling his nukes, prepping for the next global war. I mean, our enemies The countries that hate us around the world are just loving this shit. They are just eating this shit up. It couldn't be better. You know, this politically correct society that we've created for ourselves in the United States really is our greatest weakness. So you know what? Today, Monday, June 29, 2015, hats off to the Greek people, the people of Greece. I think you're handling things very well. I know this is a very difficult time for you. I think it's important to recognize, and we need to ask ourselves the question, you know, what's the worst that can happen? I mean, we are already living, and the people of Greece are already living the worst case scenario. There's bank runs, there's bank holidays, the Athens stock market is closed, there's total upheaval politically within the government in relation to the ECB. What's the worst that can happen from here? I actually think, contrary to whatever a major pundit is saying now, that they're going to eventually realize how bad of a situation they're in, and they're going to vote yes to the austerity. I actually think the people of Greece are going to vote no. Nobody's talking about that. Again, every single major pundit on CNBC, a part of this financial shenanigan gangbang world, told us over the last 5 years that none of this would ever happen, that there would never be a bank holiday, that Greece never would collapse, they would never potentially exit the Eurozone. And now they're saying they're still going to, you know, somehow remain integrated. Even if the people of Greece vote yes, it's only going to be a short-term fix, again, a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound for a specific period of time until they run into the same structural problems, which has brought us here today, which has brought us to bank runs, which has brought us to bank holidays, which has brought us with the Athens stock market closure, which has brought us to a situation, this dire situation, where the world is literally, financially speaking, imploding. Again, this is all a part of the strategy. The strategy of the ECB is, I think, for contagion to spread, for Greece to collapse, for other countries like Portugal, Italy, Ireland, Spain to collapse, because it promotes their agenda of further integration, further tightening, more controls. I think this is actually what they're promoting. You know, it's absolutely insane, but it's what's happening in real life today. I'm Christopher Greene. Get this video out everywhere, make it viral, hard hitting it in your face, and click the link below to support our sponsor.